The latest Glitch Direct dropped a ton of new information on us, not just for the Amazing Digital Circus, but for all of Glitch's other series, along with a couple of surprises. One of these was the release date announcement for both episode 7 and, shockingly, episode 8. That took everyone by surprise. We never expected to get 2 confirmed dates at this event, let alone that the latter would premiere just 3 months after episode 7. However, that wasn't the most peculiar surprise to come out of the Digital Circus. Right before the episode 8 date was revealed, we were shown a short teaser for the series' penultimate episode. This teaser has sparked a lot of intrigue, but more than anything, a certain amount of discontent among fans. Why is that? Well, let's start by breaking down this teaser frame by frame so you can see what we mean. The first thing to know is that nearly every scene in the teaser is extremely blurry, a result of the high speed at which they were shown. This caused all the scenes to overlap, making it incredibly difficult to distinguish what's happening in each one. But after carefully analyzing all these scenes, something very interesting and disheartening was discovered. A large portion of these scenes turned out to be recycled footage from previous episodes, specifically from episode 6. We can see this most clearly in this image. If you pay close attention, you can see Zubul next to what appears to be a mannequin NPC. It's a familiar one too. It's Ming, the character created in episode 6 as a joke and a play on words by Kane. This scene was the most obvious giveaway, as Zubul is clearly visible and the mannequin appears to be wearing a cap, confirming it's Ming. But that's not the only scene. If you watch the teaser from the beginning, you can just barely make out the overlapping images. The first shot shows Zubul falling from the flower pot where they were hiding from Kane at the start of the episode, blended with the scene where Gangle and Zubul talk about their feelings and promise to support each other. In the second shot, we see Gangle again from that same conversation, but in a different position, lowering her head as she cries. Superimposed over her are Ragatha and Pomni from the beginning of the episode. Specifically when Ragatha says they can play a traditional game of softball again, an idea Pomni isn't too thrilled about. Now from this point on, things get more curious, and above all confusing. In the next scene we can see Pomni and Ragatha, but it doesn't seem to be the same shot as before. On the right, you can make out what might be one of Zubul's legs, or at least something with a similar style. Since we know Zubul's parts change subtly in each episode, it's hard to know which scene this is from. Pomni and Ragatha share multiple scenes, but based on their positioning, this could either be a new original scene from episode 8, or just a zoomed in clip from episode 6. If it's the former, this would be the first actual new scene in the entire teaser. But it doesn't end there. The overlapping image is also interesting. You can faintly see what looks like a square head with snake fangs on the left, while on the right there's a kind of four-legged creature with a bat-like head. It appears to have a long tongue and large ears, with colors that might remind you of the candy horse from the beginning of episode 2 during the Candy Kingdom adventure. This is all just speculation, so if you see something different, feel free to comment and help us uncover more secrets and hidden details in this confusing and possibly fake teaser, although the fake part might not be entirely true. In the next image, we can see another recycled scene from episode 6, right after Jax eliminates Ragatha after she curiously took one of his lives. This is when Pomni arrives and the scene plays out. What's truly interesting, however, is the image superimposed on top of it. Although it's not perfectly clear, you can faintly make out a character with red cheeks, large eyes, and what appears to be green skin. Sound familiar? That's right, this description perfectly matches Ribbit. This mysterious character was subtly introduced in episode 5, shown to be an old abstracted friend of Jax whose loss is still an open wound. The theories about Jax and Ribbit have gained traction over time, especially since episode 6 showed Jax looking distressed at his old friend's bedroom door. These clues about Ribbit, combined with Jax's deteriorating emotional stability in recent episodes, have led many to believe that the upcoming episode 7 will be his breaking point. This would line up with the leaked image Gooseworks shared, where we see a notably depressed Jax in his room. It's possible that all of this will cause Jax's cold, indifferent facade to crumble, leading him to open up about his past and the reasons for his sarcastic and annoying behavior. Kinger might be the one to listen and empathize with Jax in this situation, something he has done before with Pomni in episode 3, and recently with Ragatha in episode 6. Furthermore, we know Kinger has suffered the loss of a loved one in the Digital Circus, having had to overcome the abstraction of his beloved wife, Queenie. This could all potentially happen in the upcoming episode 7. However, if this blurry scene from the episode 8 teaser really is Ribbit, it would suggest that Jack's opening up to Kinger or Pomni might not happen until episode 8's release on March 20th, 2026. This would make episode 7 and its confirmed beach adventure another chapter where we watch Jax's mental decline as he continues to delude himself into thinking he doesn't care about anything or anyone, all in an attempt to have some control over his life in a circus that is slowly driving all its inhabitants insane. This aligns with what Gooseworks has told us about the remaining episodes. On Tumblr, a fan asked her to describe the upcoming episodes in a single word, to which Gooseworks responded mostly with expressions. You might think this doesn't mean much, but if you look at the words in order, you'll notice that the word guns corresponds perfectly with what we saw in episode 6, a battle royale style adventure with lots of weapons. This confirms that Gooseworks' descriptions are more meaningful than we might have thought. So considering that the next word, for episode 7, is it suggests the next episode will leave us with more questions than answers. This fits with a phrase Gooseworks said about Jax: "You're only making the joke take longer." It's possible that Jax's internal conflict will continue until episode 8, which is described with the word O. That would be the moment our questions are finally answered. As we sadly know, this will be the penultimate episode of the series, making it the perfect time to resolve all remaining mysteries and set the stage for the grand finale in the long-awaited episode 9. But what about the rest of the scenes in the teaser? Well, as you can imagine, they're just as confusing as the others. There's an image where we see Cain looking down on Pomni and Ragatha from above, a scene that could be from episode 8 or any other episode, as it's a very common shot in the series. However, the superimposed image appears to show a kind of bowler hat, like the one Charlie Chaplin wears. We haven't seen a hat like this in any episode so far. Characters like Cain or the disappearing guy wear different types of hats. The closest thing is the hat worn by one of Gumigoo's band members, specifically Max, whom we first saw in episode 2. This hat in the teaser could mean we'll see Gumigoo and his band again in episode 8, just as we saw them again in episode 4 during Pomni's adventure at Spudgy's. The next scene is a bit clearer, once again showing recycled footage from episode 6, this time when Zubul snipes Kinger and Ragatha. The overlaid image seems to show multiple mannequins with rabbit ears, which could be a joke from Cain to mock Jax. It's also possible it's something more sinister, a clue pointing to a theory that has been circulating in the community for several episodes now, the theory that Jax is an NPC. This is supported by some very interesting clues, like the fact that in episode 4, Jax is the only character with a parking spot and his own car at Spudgy's, a parking lot reserved exclusively for customers who, as we know, are all NPCs created by Cain. This theory is very compelling, and we'll have a full video with all the information on it soon. Next, we see an image of Cain angry with Zubul, which is something we've seen in previous episodes. This could be the same scene from episode 6, when Cain gets annoyed right before Zubul tells him what she really wants. But what's interesting is that even though it looks like the same scene, the one in the preview is from a slightly different perspective. This might suggest it's a new scene from episode 8, or perhaps just the same scene viewed from another angle. And to wrap up these confusing scenes, the last image is the blurriest. We can make out Pomni next to Jax, but it looks like there's another image of Jax layered on top, where you can faintly see his face with a different expression. And these are all the supposed real images from episode 8. So what can we conclude from all this? It's simple, and pretty obvious. Glitch is trying to confuse us. They're likely mixing in just a couple of scenes from episode 8, probably ones without much importance to the plot. For the most part, however, they seem to be scenes from the most recent episode to date, that is, images from episode 6, as we discussed earlier. The second to last scene, while it doesn't seem to be a shot we'll see directly in episode 8, leaves us with a lot to think about. It seems to hint that in this episode, we'll get a bit more information about the real world. This could mean the circus members will remember more events from their lives before arriving at the circus, perhaps even showing us the moment they entered this enigmatic place. Alternatively, it might be a small glimpse of the long-awaited exit that Pony and other characters, like Kaufmo, who sadly abstracted before he could find it, had been searching for all this time. We can consider this because of the following scene, which appears to be a crop and reversed video of a security guard falling down a slide. Seeing it in reverse might suggest that this will be the entrance to an important place. This slide could be the one we briefly saw in the pilot episode while Cain was giving Pomni a tour of the circus. He showed us the digital lake, which we'll see transformed into a digital beach in the upcoming episode 7. But what's important is what lies next to it, the digital carnival. So far, we haven't had a chance to see it up close, but assuming the next episode will show us this new digital beach, we can speculate that episode 8 will continue this trend and finally reveal what's hidden in the digital carnival. This is where we see a rather strange slide. Unlike a conventional slide, the one at the carnival doesn't seem to have a way to climb to the top. This, combined with what we see in the episode 8 teaser, could mean that this slide will be the entrance to a location relevant to this penultimate episode. The characters might enter it in the same way shown in the teaser, possibly being launched at high speed. Perhaps this is how they can traverse the void and finally reach the real world. Or maybe they'll discover something more depressing. The moment they realize there is no exit, that they are trapped for eternity in the circus of madness, forced to hold on to their sanity for as long as possible, until they inevitably abstract. One last relevant detail is that in that same pilot episode scene, we can see an NPC sitting on the slide. Perhaps this character will be important in the episode, helping them discover this entrance hidden even from Kane himself. Could this mannequin be the same one we saw at the end of episode 5, watching the circus members from a distance? Sadly, that's something we'll have to wait to find out until the release of the final 3 episodes of this wonderful series that has given us so many memorable characters and moments.